Oh, is that right? It appears to be correct. Let's see. It appears to be correct. Let's see. All right. Yes, we are live and in living color, if you will, party people. Yes. Oh, finally figured this shit out. Never mind. I'm finally here. We are finally live and in living color, if you will, baby. Uh, and ain't nothing like it. All right, let's see if I can pull up, or if it's going to be on here. I don't see any. I don't see any. So let's go here to my channel. Live now, 3 watching, perfect. And get the chat going. Live now, 3 watching, perfect. Oh yeah, not too much lag either. Live chat, all messages. All right. Hell yeah. All right, party people in the place to be. What's going on? It's me, it's me. We finally figured it all out, baby. Oh man, it just took forever. A lot to digest here. A ton to digest here. Let's see here. Let's see if we can do a little bit of. There's a search function on here. Search this group. Heyman. Do this page. Bischoff. Oh, it was 5 hours ago. 24 minutes ago. 15 minutes ago. Okay, so. All right, so here we go. Do a little bit of promotion for this. Boom. See if we can get some more eyeballs on the stream and start talking about it. No, I can't do that. But what I can do is this. And in here. Perfect. Okay, so party people in the place. Wait, there we go. Party people in the place to be. What's going on? It's me. It's me. Take however many takes this has been, but fuck it. We're here. We're here. We're live in a living color, if you will, right now. So, start at the start. Take it away. From Sports Illustrated. Is being reported today all over the place. You're going to hear a lot about it, but I just want to get, this is a lot more than 2 cents though. A lot of stuff here to digest. Let's digest it right now. So, actually, a little bit more promotion wouldn't hurt nobody. Let's go to Twitter. Certainly wouldn't hurt me. Let's go to Twitter. But right now, I am here to tell you that Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff have both been named executive directors and will run WWE TV. This is according to Sports Illustrated. Let's get it going. Exclusive: Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff named WWE executive directors will run WWE TV. WWE has named Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff as executive directors. Sports Illustrated has learned Heyman is set to become executive director of Monday Night Raw, while Bischoff will fill the same role for SmackDown Live. Both will report directly to WWE Chairman and CEO Vince McMahon. Now, this is important because they're not just on the writing staff. They are reporting directly to the boss, directly to the big man on campus. And I am telling you, this is a huge implication of how Vince McMahon really feels about AEW. Now, I know there are probably still some people that are like, it's just a t-shirt company. They don't really count. They don't really matter. They do count, and they do matter because Vince McMahon is changing something, and he doesn't change anything unless he absolutely positively has to, unless he feels a legitimate threat coming to him. And he must feel a legitimate threat coming. You don't believe me? Well, guess what? He was in the absolute pinnacle of success after WrestleMania started because he thought he was going to lose his company because he bet the whole thing that WrestleMania was going to be a success and he thought he was going to go bankrupt. Or it looked like it wasn't going to be a success and he thought he was going to go bankrupt. Well, he's not bankrupt now. He's a billionaire. How he got there was he didn't feel that he was necessarily threatened really even by Jim Crockett Promotions and the NWA at the time. There are a couple, actually no, that's not true because there are a couple things that he did, including Survivor Series. Yes, and stealing talent away and all this other stuff. But so after that period, when he did feel threatened for a while, again, that's why that era was such a big boom period. He didn't feel like he was threatened anymore until WCW came directly for him with the Monday Night Wars, and he changed. He changed how he did business. He changed how he did business, and it became a huge success for him. And then WWE ended up killing WCW and killing all competition. And so he went back to being complacent. He went back to lazy. It's funny for somebody who, and I've seen a lot of bodybuilders, I've seen a lot of guys who lift weights and all this other stuff, and they're like, I'm never satisfied, never comfortable where you're at, always strive to do more, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. You got to believe Vince McMahon has that same mentality, but only in certain things. He feels that way about his body. He feels that way about, I don't even know what else. But he certainly doesn't feel that way about his company until it's actually threatened, until there's an actual threat there. He's more than happy to be lazy when it comes to the creative aspect of his company. And there was no competition after WCW ended. TNA? Ring of Honor? He didn't feel the need to change really anything, really much of anything of what he did in terms of changing for them. Yeah, he never did it. But now AEW's along, this t-shirt company, and he feels legitimately threatened. Why? Because they've got you cannot underestimate the power of the possibility of AEW becoming a major company, thanks in part to their television deal that they've got on TNT with the Turner networks, with the same networks that threatened Vince McMahon's existence in the late 90s. He's got to be feeling some deja vu. And so we're going back to this deja vu thing with Eric Bischoff and Paul Heyman. Let's go back to the story now. The two positions are full-time executive roles with no plans at the current time for this to be introduced as part of a TV storyline at the current time. Now, they have, in the past, kept some backstage stuff backstage, at least for a while. For instance, during the height of SmackDown's existence, really after the brand split, Paul Heyman running the show, Paul Heyman being the writer, wasn't necessarily it didn't transfer on camera. It wasn't part of Paul Heyman's character on camera, at least not for a while. Like, he became general manager for a cup of coffee, but it wasn't exactly the same thing. Like, it wasn't quite there. They have had examples of this, but Johnny Ace didn't become a character on TV until, decades after he started doing it, really. So Jim Ross, I don't think ever became any kind of authority figure on television. He was the announce guy, You know, like they have done that in the past. I don't know if they're going to continue to do that here, but they have done that in the past. And it would be best for them to keep it that way. It would be best for them to keep Eric and Paul in more backstage centric positions than to try to transfer that on screen. Because what we would like is a return to the Attitude Era in terms of the competition, the action, the I can't look away aspect of it. What we don't necessarily need is to bring back the old names and faces, which WWE has a real hard time of not doing recently. What we don't need is that. What we do need is some kind of aspect. Yes, I live, Mario fanboy. But what we don't need, tell people that I'm here, that I'm live and in living color, if you will. But what we don't need is just the Attitude Era repeated. We need a new version of it, and I think that's what we're going to get here. So good on them for, at the very least, keeping them off television for right now. Heyman overseeing the creative development of Raw is scintillating news for wrestling fans. Best known as a pioneer, blah, 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 goes over his resume a little bit. He's a must-see attraction. But here's the interesting thing here. But Heyman's long-lasting work happens off-camera with the character development of many on the WWE roster. Now, I was live a little while ago on YouNow, and I said, why has that not transferred onto camera? Why has Paul Heyman's work with talent backstage not transferred on stage? And I don't know. I would imagine Paul Heyman shoots out ideas, and Vince McMahon hears them however he wants to hear them. I would imagine Paul Heyman shoots out these fantastic ideas, and they come back to Vince McMahon's ears as womp 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 Lesnar Roman womp 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 Roman womp 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 womp. So hopefully, this will allow with a couple other things will allow Eric and Heyman to step forward a little bit in their creative roles. Let's take a look at Bischoff. Bischoff will also work directly with executives from Fox, which will air SmackDown Live beginning this October. This is a bit of a stroke of genius. This is a bit of all right, because if anybody knows how to deal with execs, and if anybody knows how to make wrestling ideas work for not only the company, not only the audience, but for the network, it's Eric Bischoff. Now, mind you, Bischoff didn't necessarily work with networks that wanted or cared for or liked the product that he had, but he was making them enough money because Turner was just throwing cash at them. But the ratings were high enough, and the show was entertaining enough, and in the pop culture zeitgeist enough, that it made for not only interesting television, but it made for a good time in terms of wrestling. It worked for wrestling, it worked for wrestlers, it worked. So, if anybody knows how to, and guess what? Guess who doesn't know how to work with executives? Paul Heyman. so that transition for SmackDown to go to Fox works smoothest with Eric Bischoff than it would for Paul Heyman. It absolutely does. Even now in his older age, I'm sure Heyman may have, not rested on his laurels or anything, but mellowed a bit with his age. You would hope that he would mellow a bit with his age, but who knows at this point? Who really knows? I think it does, in fact, work putting him in charge of ECW, or not ECW, of the show on Fox. That's brilliant. That's a stroke of genius. That's brilliant. Hold on, let me see if I can change the. I can change the thumbnail. Good. I think while I'm still alive. Save. Okay, cool. Yes, I'm still seeing. And scroll up. Beautiful. All right, so that's a stroke of genius. The former WCW president, immortal in the industry for igniting the New World Order, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. Background. Bischoff is a valuable addition for WWE. Most recently, he lent his expertise to the podcast Was for One, as well as TED Talk. He did on how the news media is copying the pro wrestling blueprint. Everyone copies the pro wrestling blueprint. Everyone does. To say that they don't is ludicrous. Everyone copies the pro wrestling playbook. Like, they can't help themselves. they absolutely cannot help themselves. It's a scintillating playbook. It really is. And UFC does it all the time. And it's funny because I've had these conversations with UFC people where they're like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, you just pro wrestlers, blah, 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 blah. It's like, yeah, okay, but I've seen this play out many times before. Come on, bro. I've watched this on Monday Night Raw. You hear a bit of an echo on my end. Okay, see what we can do about that. I don't know if there's anything I can do about that. Maybe lower that a tad, but I think that's about all I can do. But yeah, this is fantastic news for anybody who loves pro wrestling, because now it's heating up. Now the war is heating up. Now it's something to take a look at, because Vince McMahon is really scared. Vince McMahon actually cares about AEW. You may not, the WWE faithful may not, and you don't need to. And here's the thing, you don't need to worry about AEW. You need to enjoy the time period that we are in right now as professional wrestling fans. You need to understand, and I am enjoying the time period that we're in right now for the people that I know that are in pro wrestling, the people that I knew that were in pro wrestling, well, the ones that I liked, that are taking advantage of it right now, that are seeing all the success that they deserved right now, because of their hard work, because of the fact that they're still involved in it, the fact that they're seeing people recognize their work now, and that they're getting paid to do what they like to do. Like, good for them. This competition helps everybody. And the fact that Vince McMahon is taking this step, thinks that this is a legitimate threat to him. Which, honestly, I don't even know if it's a legitimate threat. I don't think AEW or the Khans or the Elites or any of those cats actually want to take down WWE. Yes, even with the stupid chair thing with Cody at pay-per-view. I think they want to have their company grow. I think they want their company to be seen as a legitimate, maybe threat, maybe competition too, yeah, because that's going to make them more money. But I think in their heads they see themselves as probably just another wrestling company. I guess this is a case of desperate times call for desperate measures. But yes, and here's part of the reason why I think Vince is desperate right now, because I think we're seeing a lot of what we're seeing with WWE in terms of their creativeness, the creative aspects that their company is taking, is Vince seeing the end of his life and Vince not feeling comfortable with it. The man is up there in age, and I feel like he doesn't like the idea of not being able to beat something, and can't nobody beat death. But that's why you see him either allowing or cajoling or trotting out The Undertaker all these times when he really shouldn't be there anymore. Shawn Michaels, Kane, when they really shouldn't be there anymore. Triple H, Batista, when they really shouldn't be there anymore. You know, he has no idea what to do with these new guys because he's had this disconnect with them for a long time. Plus, the way he had the system set up in terms of training them and getting superstars ready was so terrible for so long And that's a whole nother video and a whole nother discussion. But there's a huge gap between the superstars that we have out there now and the ones from the past that actually made him money. And he doesn't get what that chasm is. He feels desperate to keep them there. That's why the legends get trotted out as often as they do. Like, there's nothing wrong with legends having spots and doing stuff on shows. Absolutely fantastic. Nostalgia, great. But give us some time to miss you. Has anybody had time to miss The Undertaker? When was the last time we saw him? The last time we saw Undertaker was Saudi Arabia. At the time before Saudi Arabia, it was what? Mania? No, he wasn't at Mania. It was the Australia show. Like, it wasn't. It hasn't been that. I need at this point. I need at least a year before I see The Undertaker again. Because every single time I see him, we saw Undertaker Monday. Yeah, I mean before that. Every single time we see him, it's like, oh. Like, it's cringy to watch The Undertaker now. Like, he may lose all the weight that he wants and all this other stuff and fantastic, but it's cringy to watch him walk down the aisle and try to hobble into that ring and try to do stuff. And he's like, the man has been bone on bone for years. No matter how many surgeries and replacements and all this other stuff he's had, there's damn near not an original part on him. But Vince McMahon loves to bring him back because that's his creation. And I know The Undertaker can stop anytime he wants to, but Vince ain't telling him to stop. And nobody under him can tell him to stop. So there is this desperation that I think Vince is having his own internal desperation. I think that's part of the reason why he's trying to bring the XFL back, or he is bringing the XFL back, is there's this internal desperation that Vince is feeling within his own life and how much time he has left with it. And then what he does is he projects that onto the screen of what we see. And I think him feeling any kind of pressure from AEW is a reflection of that, but it's going to be good for the business. It's going to be good for fans. It's going to be good for wrestlers. It's going to be good for professional wrestling in general. But the underlying thing is he doesn't necessarily need to see AEW as a threat. Now, he should, and I'm glad that he does because that's the only way he's going to change anything. But realistically, he doesn't need to because I don't think AEW wants to be seen as a threat. I think AEW wants to be seen as on par with and an alternative to, and we want to be able to keep the lights on and pay our people and do all this other stuff and become profitable and do all the things that other wrestling companies before it, since WCW, hasn't been able to do. But I don't think they necessarily want to kill WWE and take it out of business and take over. I don't think they have plans for world domination the way Vince had plans for world domination and did dominate. And ended up as the only game in town for entirely too long. You think he'll try to bring back the WBF? You know what? At this point, I wouldn't be surprised. I honestly wouldn't be surprised. If the XFL actually works, I wouldn't be here. I think there's a difference. I think there's a difference between the XFL and the WBF. First off, I would love to see that because bodybuilding now is entirely different than bodybuilding 30 years ago. But I think there's a big difference between the WBF and the XFL. The WBF was an unmitigated failure. No one has ever looked back fondly on anything the WBF has ever done. XFL had some good points. XFL wasn't a trash league. XFL was just not the NFL. And the NFL just portrayed it as a trash league. Now, the NFL had some good, or the XFL had some good players, had some good plays. Some of them went on to the NFL. The NFL adopted some of the broadcasting techniques, some of the camera work, some of the stats, I think they changed a rule or two as well from the XFL. So the XFL, and then they did that documentary, what was it, sometime last year? Or earlier this year about the XFL. So the XFL wasn't an unmitigated, absolute, abject failure. WBF was. WBF was terrible. that was possibly the one thing Mean Gene couldn't save. Like Bobby, that was the pits. It was the absolute pits, and it's interesting because if you go on the network, I implore you to watch some of those old superstars that they have. Go find it in the vault, the WWF superstars. They do have some ads for the WWF, and it's interesting to watch. I'm not there. There are a couple things on those old superstars that are the most interesting to watch to me. This is a tangent. I'm gonna come back to the story. First are the WWF trailers, the promos, the commercials that they run. Second are Virgil promos. Oh, wrestling superstar Virgil at his least intelligible, at his most crazy. The only thing he doesn't do is ask for fuck money, but it's fantastic how terrible those promos are. Go back and watch those. But this is a fantastic development because you've heard horror stories about how the writing process is backstage and all this other stuff for different writers, and how they'll have ideas and they just get shot down because the old man doesn't know what they're talking about, doesn't understand this, that, or the other. Say what you will about both Eric Bischoff and Paul Heyman. They understand trends. They get what's hot. They get what's popping off in the streets. They're probably hipper than I am. I know they're hipper than I am. But they know trends. They get it. They're what do they call those? They're not outliers, but they're the trendsetters. They're in touch with the people that do things. They're in touch with what's hot before it's hot. So, and that's how they managed to get their success in the first place. Bischoff was partially ripping shit off from the people that were doing it in the first place. So really, you got Paul Heyman, who's like usually first in line for trends, and Eric Bischoff, who's right underneath him, ready to steal the trends from the guys like Paul Heyman. But that's fine. That's fine because WWE is so far behind the curve in terms of trends, in terms of what works for television, in terms of what works for wrestling, that having those guys at the helm will work. And if the writers are allowed to write, and if the writers are allowed to have their opinions and their stories heard from better eyes, I think that's going to work. Are they? How do you do, fellow kids? No. No, because they're not trying to be cool. They just know what is cool, and will show it to you and try to sell it to you. They're not trying to be. Vince is trying. Vince is how do you do fellow children. Vince is how you do fellow teenagers. Vince is that guy, or has shown more aspects of being that guy. Now Vince is also stubborn, and once it doesn't go his way, will cross his arms and stamp his feet and huff puff. But Vince is more that guy than Eric and Paul are. Like Vince is the absolute worst when it comes to that. But this is a great development. And I would imagine that this will allow the wrestlers to have their opinions met with more objective, better ears as well. Now, this doesn't change everything, but this is a huge step in the right direction. Now, one of the major issues that they have, and I think, and this is one of the benefits of, this is one of the huge benefits of having Paul Heyman take over Raw. WWE has a problem, any number of problems, but WWE doesn't know how to make the most out of what they have now. Raw, for instance, is a 3-hour-long program. 3 hours, including commercials, but 3-hour-long program. And yet, you see posts, I don't know about you, but I've seen posts all over the internet. Hey, where was this person? We haven't seen Nakamura in this amount of time. We haven't seen Rusev in this amount of time. Oh, Ember just showed up on TV just to job to Sonya. Oh, and now she's back in the land pile. Fucking Bayley was gone forever and a day. Like, you see these stories, right? You see these posts all over the place of where is X? Where is X? Where is X? The problem with that is that it happens too often. What I would like to see is it happen less often with fewer people, but there's a reason why those people are off TV. Those people are off TV either for injury's sake or to refresh them, to give them some time off so they can come back with fresher new ideas and actually go forward with those ideas. Not necessarily an off season, but a semi-off season, sort of a rotating. All right, so we're pushing Nakamura this hard. We're going to do an injury angle with Nakamura and then bring him back in the summer in time for SummerSlam, right? And then do this, that, or the other, right? I would love to see that on a very sporadic basis. But too many people are not on TV because Creative doesn't have anything for them. Do you know who was great? And Eric Bischoff was good at this too. But do you know who was great at making the most out of what he had? Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman put together ECW with spit and a shoestring and got his entire company over. Everybody, Mikey Whipwreck was a star. Spike Dudley was a star. Everybody was a star. Fonzie was a star. Everybody was a star. And there are really no stars on the roster right now. Really. You got champions, but there's really no stars on the roster. The biggest star on the roster right now, outside of Brock, biggest active star on the roster outside of Brock, because Ronda's not active right now, Becky Lynch, but she's not really a star. They want her to be a star, but she's not really that other mainstream, that Ronda type, that Brock Lesnar type. They wanted to get Roman that for the longest time, and he's kind of on the cusp of where Cena and Rock were before they really got their careers going. But he's not really that right now. And he's toiling around in the mid-card with Shane of all people, for over nothing. So they don't really have that star power. But during the Attitude Era, which a lot of people want to go back to, there's a reason. Because everybody was a star. Remember the Attitude Era? I do. Gilbert was a star. Godfather was a star. Everybody was. Mark Merrill was a star. Everybody was, except for Tiger Ali Singh. But everybody else was a star. Everybody else was a star. And with 3 hours of television every week, it is a travesty. It is, to the highest degree, just negligence that you can't get more than a handful of people over, let alone make stars. That's tragic. That's negligence. And hopefully that's in the past. Because with a guy like Paul Heyman, and you got to remember, this isn't Paul Heyman's first rodeo in WWE either. The brand split, the original brand split, where they split off Raw and SmackDown, the original one, back in the early 2000s. Back in the early 2000s, made stars on the SmackDown brand. You got to remember, on the Raw side, Triple H was taking over, and it was essentially the start of the reign of terror over there. But on the SmackDown side, Mark Henry was a star. Farouk was a star. A-Train was a star, was a legitimate threat. Spanky and London, who became Lundrick with Spanky, were stars. They made stars over there. The SmackDown 6, Chavo Guerrero was a star. They made stars over there. They made the most of what they had. And this is a huge step in the right direction, because with 3 hours at your fingertips, you can make stars. Stop with the long, overdramatic promos. Get to the wrestling and get rid of that 2 out of 3 falls rule. If you're going to have the 24/7 title, you better make it hardcore. Because, even though that's arguably the best thing on the show, but how high is the bar there? Like, come on. You got just because something's the best doesn't necessarily mean that everything that's where the bar should be. Raise the freaking bar. Raise the bar back up to prominent status on the show. Raise tag teams back up to prominent status on the show. Eric Bischoff and Paul Heyman were both good at recognizing what was lacking in the American wrestling landscape and bringing that to their audience. Let's go here to the chat here real quick. I wonder if WWE stars will be able to do more unscripted promos now. I would hope so, but I would also hope that they would work with guys like Heyman to learn how to do that. Part of the problem was that, or is that developmental system, or at least how that development system was really before NXT and really before Triple H took over NXT, because they wanted blank slates so that they can train them their own way. But here's the problem, and this is a whole other video that I can do, that I want to do when I find the time. There's some seasoning that goes on in the indies. You need to learn how to fail, and hopefully you learn how to do that on the indies before you go to a major company like WWE and now AEW. Right? You need to learn how to do unscripted promos. You need to learn how to get the bullet points, the date, maybe the time, the date of the event, the venue of the event, who I'm mad at and why I'm mad at them. And get that all under 90 seconds and call it a day. But there aren't a whole lot of guys that come up through that, or used to come up through that training system. So they ended up developing this scripted word by word. And that's not a terrible thing. You can script out a promo if you want to, but you need to script out your promo the way you want it, so that you can deliver it the way you want it, so that you can put the right emphasis on the right syllable, so that you can carry that over to the crowd and have it live or die based on you. When I was wrestling, there were a couple promos I put together word for word, and then there were some promos that I put together point by point, and just filled in the blanks in between. You got to be able to learn how to do that stuff, and there's not a whole lot of guys that came up through that system, and there are still more guys on the show now that came up through that system that know how to do that. So, as much as I would love to see that, and there's going to be some growing pains when that does happen, and it's going to take some time for that to happen, as much as I would love to see it. Since Paul, Seth, I remember Tiger Ali said, Seth is almost a star, but Seth is now getting overshadowed by Becky, who I think it was 2 weeks ago, went off on a fan because she didn't want her relationship to. She didn't want to be defined by her relationship. Now all she is on television is defined by her relationship. C'est la vie. But Seth isn't really a star. They didn't build Seth to be a star. They didn't build Becky to be a star either, but she caught fire. But they didn't build Seth. They intended to build Seth, but he didn't get built to be a star. First off, he was in the shadow of Roman, because had Roman not gone down with leukemia, I don't know that Seth would have been in the spot that he was in to get that big moment to transition to beat Brock Lesnar. Secondly, the match where he beat Brock Lesnar, he didn't come off looking like the conquering hero. He came off looking like a heel, really. He kicked him in the nuts. He came off looking like a heel. He came off, why should I be cheering for this guy? They gave you really no reason to cheer for him. Like, it's going to sound all Jim Cornette-y, but he didn't come off as a conquering hero babyface. And he didn't do it, and it's not like, Eddie Guerrero, where lying and cheating and stealing and stuff was like in his repertoire, and like you kind of cheered for him to do that. And even then, he just kind of did sneaky stuff, like taking his boot off and tricking Kurt Angle, but not really necessarily cheating. But Seth's not really a star. They don't really have stars now. They don't. And they did that to themselves. They stopped making stars. Everybody had to fit into the same box, and they stopped making stars. Now, Seth, for his part, I think is trying to be WWE's new John Cena. That's why he's on Twitter, raising the trumpets for WWE, best wrestling in the business, when really he's just kind of just not. when really he could just not say anything. I think he wants that role, and good for him for wanting it. There's nothing wrong with having that aspiration, but I don't think he's a star, at least not right now. They could make him a star, and this could help make him a star. I think the last time Tiger Ali was seen was back in early 2001. Yeah. Wait, he was no. Wasn't Tiger? No, Tiger Ali Singh. They brought him back because he managed. Was he the one that managed him? I think he did. He did. Was that 2001? I thought that was like 2002, 2003-ish. No, it was 2001 because it was 2001. Yep. Because he ended up managing Lowdown, D'Lo Brown and Chaz, which was a really underrated team. But he ended up managing them, and they lost their spot in that Rumble to Drew Carey. So yeah, this is a huge development. I didn't mean to go this long, but this is a huge development for WWE. Now, this doesn't fix everything, because honestly, one of the WWE's major problems is the length of their freaking shows. You don't need 3 hours every week for a Raw, and it's funny because they used to talk shit about WCW for the 3-hour shows they did every Monday, and now they're doing. They also used to talk shit about the senior league, the senior tours with Hogan and Savage and stuff, quote unquote, past their prime. Hogan and Savage were putting out much better matches than Goldberg and Taker were. Goldberg and Taker are, or Cena is, or any of the old timers WWE's trotting out recently. But neither Eric or Paul are going to be able to turn back that clock and make it 2-hour Raws anymore. And I think that's gonna be Paul's biggest hindrance, is the amount. That's gonna be his biggest hindrance and his biggest opportunity at the same time. The amount of time that he's got to fill is way too much for every 3 weeks or every week. 3 hours every week. Not to mention a pay-per-view every 2.5, 3 weeks on the schedule. Are they still at 19 pay-per-views, for crying out loud? Way too much. Entirely too much time to fill. Entirely too much. But if anybody can do it, it's Paul. And if anybody can take advantage of the amount of time that he's got, it's Paul. We may see the Revival have more prominent roles. We may see the Good Brothers have better roles. We may see more out of the talent that we have, and that's a great thing. And I'm heaping all this praise on Paul Heyman because he's really the top 5 managers of all time. Honestly, one of the top, I want to say 10, maybe 5 promos of all time. But you can't take anything away from Bischoff. Bischoff has a business mind. And Bischoff is possibly one of the best people to take over that spot to help bridge that gap from professional wrestling and the business standpoint with Fox and dealing with them. Now, here's one thing that we're all leaving out of this equation. The Game, Triple H, who was apparently the heir apparent. Remember him? Politicked his way to the top, or politicked his way to the upper middle, married his way to the top, was going to be the heir apparent. Shane booked it and went to Japan for a while. Stephanie, is going to take over, but Triple H kind of snuck in and undermined her and got into the position, the one right underneath Vince, right at the learning tree. He was going to take it. Once the old man kicked, he was going to take over the company. And where is he in all this? Because what we're seeing right now is Triple H has a problem. When his kids get called up to the main roster, for the most part, they get fucking destroyed. And I'm sure it breaks his heart all the time. All the time. Every single time it happens, I'm sure. Every single time he had to look Bayley in the eye and catering and know that she wasn't going out there, I'm sure that had to break his heart. But guess what? He's not in charge of Raw. He's not in charge of SmackDown. He's still in the room. He's still in the decision-making process, but he's not at those peaks yet. Where does this leave him? What kind of power move was this from Vince to give it to Bischoff and Heyman instead of just giving it to Triple H? Why is Triple H not the one in charge of both of these shows? Why did he split that off between the two of them? Is Triple H still in he has to be still in the conversation to take over once Vince is gone. Take over the whole company once Vince is gone. Maybe he usurps them and slides to the Vince slot once Vince is gone. But why not now? Why did he not take over now? Why did Vince decide to split this into 2 different jobs with 2 different people? There's something else going on. Like, the one guy that I feel probably got lost in this whole thing is Triple H. It's gonna be interesting to see. And it's funny, nobody really talks about Stephanie anymore taking over the company, which everybody was talking about once Shane left. But nobody, everybody's now on the Triple H bandwagon. Rah, Paul Levesque, blah, blah. Everybody's on that bandwagon now because of what he did with NXT. But everybody except Vince, because is it because he's spending a lot of time in NXT? Is it because he's, taking his time down there? I'm sure he had to think about if the opportunity presented itself, and it's not like Triple H is the kind of guy to not take an opportunity when it falls into his lap or take an opportunity from somebody else. We've all seen that. Why was he not? Vince had to I have to think he had to at the very least consider giving it to Hunter. Why didn't he actually do it? Why didn't he actually give it to him? That's the big question. Yeah, that's the real head scratcher right there. Yeah. I wonder. So as we leave this whole thing, the sun is looking. Maybe the sun's looking a little bit brighter right now. Because, and again, one of the other things that Eric and Paul have to deal with is the corporate entity that is WWE. As long as they're able to focus on the writing and making the matches and all this other stuff, they can make WWE work. And I am all for watching them do it. It's gonna be interesting. So that's my takeaways. What are your takeaways, party people? I'm gonna end this stream right here. You can tell me down there in the comment section. The sun is bright. It's hot as hell over here. You're in Cal. Which part of Cal? I'm sure it is because I'm in Santa Clarita. I'm sure it's hot outside. I know it's hot outside because it's hot in here. But yeah, party people, tell me what you think down there in the comment section. Do me a big favor. Subscribestar.com/surreal469 or patreon.com/surreal, or you're in Michigan. Yeah, the Midwest in summer, that's R.I.P. Mario. Subscribestar.com/surreal469, patreon.com/surreal469, or the PayPal link. I'm gonna fill all that out in the description by the time I'm finished with this. But yeah, do all that stuff because you're gonna help keep the lights on at the party, and you're gonna help keep stuff like this coming to you. Because being honest, if I gotta go out and work, that's a lot less content for you. So do yourself a favor, even if it's as little as $1, to help keep the lights on at the party. Please help keep the lights on at the party. Do you think Triple H is being left out in the cold right now? Let me know. Do you think that this is a good thing, a bad thing? Do you think that I'm overstating how good these guys were and how good this is for the company? Let me know all that stuff down there in the comment section. Like, share, subscribe. Let me know where everybody is at the party. Share it with everybody that you know. Until next time, if there's nobody else, I didn't even know you had a pick. Yes, I do! I'm Surreal469 on pretty much everything, Mario. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to put it in right now. Let's go here. My channel. I'm doing this all one-handed. I'm very experienced at using the computer with one hand. Ask your parents, kids. Let's see here. Put this all in here. In the stream. Add it in. Boom. I don't know if it went live in the stream. I missed live streams. Yeah, and here, you know what? With this news, I might be more tempted to come back and do some stream-alongs. Because if the shows are good, there's Patreon. Because if the shows are good, then... Let's see if that actually kicks to Patreon. It does. Because if the shows are good, if the Raws and SmackDowns have considerable improvement, then I may be back. Because honestly, I had no interest whatsoever in watching, fucking what was that last show? Stomping Grounds. See, that was only this week, and I already forgot the name of the show. I had no interest in watching like Stomping Grounds or the Saudi shows or any of that crap. But if Eric and Paul can turn the show around and make it more interesting and make it must-see TV again, then maybe I may have to take some time off to do that. But again, part of that. And I hate to do this, but part of that is predicated on you helping along with the party, with the Patreons, etc., with the subscribe stars, etc., with super chats and all that other stuff. Anyway, I gotta go because I actually do have to go and work and earn some money today. But let me know what you think about all this stuff down there in the comment section. Like, share, subscribe, and until next time, what a day. Until next time, party people. Cheers.